Okay, so Piaget's theories, schemas, file folders in your head. This is how we store the information. Assimilation is bringing in new information based on schemas. So if you have a schema for a cow and you see another big creature that you're looking at, but it's a deer, but you don't know that. It's using the current schemas that you have to make informed decisions about, oh, there's another cow. No, that's a deer. Okay, now I'm going to accommodate. So changing schemas or making a new one for deer. So accommodation is taking in and now shifting that new information into a new schema. We do this all the time. We never stop doing this. You go to a new job. You have to job shadow. You're learning new things. You're taking the existing schemas that you have and hopefully using those when you come across new information. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. When you're wrong, then you accommodate. So you take in the new information and make a new schema or adjust the schemas that you have. It is taking in, building, and then using, and then readjusting based on new information. So it's something that kids do. It's something, I mean, if you think about it, little kiddos don't have a lot of built-in information. All of you do now. You have years of experience, right? So all these years of experience have helped you. So now that you have all of this, you have a lot larger set of schemas. You have many more files than little ones. So the little ones then have to just keep building. This is what they spend most of their time doing. Piaget also came up with stages like Freud, except his are good and not based on sex. His are based on the way that kids are processing information, so cognitive. So 0 to 2 is sensory motor. Everything is perceived as objects, as they are. This is where everything is very concrete, very, if I see it, it's there. There's no changing of the things. There's no imagination happening. There's no, it is what it is. Grandma is my grandma, but she's also my mom. No, she is grandma. And sensory motor, everything comes into the mouth. Okay, everything comes in through the senses that they're very comfortable with. Pre-operational, this is where words, image, actions used to represent things mentally. So now they're starting to use mental representation. Concrete operations, 7 to 11. Oh, and pre-operational, this is like up to kindergarten, first grade. Then 7 to 11, concrete operations, this is elementary school. This is logic. This is what I see, I can process. Categories are made. Reverse mental manipulations can happen. 2 plus 4 equals 6. 6 minus 4 equals 2. They get that. Before this, they don't get that the same way. Also in here, in between, it's at late stages of pre-operational, they learn conservation. Conservation is a fun little topic. So you can take 2 balls of clay, make one small, and smash one out so it looks bigger, and ask them, right in front of them, are these the same? Yes. Make this one small, make this one like bigger, look bigger. Are they still the same? No, that one's bigger. You can take 2 glasses of water with the same amount. Pour one in a short, fat glass, one in a tall, skinny glass. Right in front of them. No magic. And they will say the tall one has more in it. They don't understand that mass can't be created like that. Bigger means more. Bigger is older. That goes away around 7. This is where they want 2 cookies, so you break 1 cookie in half. Now they have 2, and they're cool with that. If you give one kid 1 cookie and one kid 1 cookie broken in 3 pieces, the one with the 1 throws a fit, right? They have more than me. No, they don't. They will take 3 pennies over $1. So that goes away. Definitely by high school years, that goes away. And then 11, at the earliest, formal operations. This is logic, but abstract thinking, abstract reasoning, hypothetical events. Littles have a very difficult time with hypotheticals. So also during sensory motor, we have object permanence. Early on, you can take an object away and they will not look for it. They will not see it. Later, you take it away and put it behind your back and they will hunt for it. This is also the stage where they realize that when mom leaves, mom still exists, so now they're upset. And they're not happy about it. 2 to 7, conservation, cut pizza in 8 or 12 slices. It's still the same amount of pizza. They do not understand that. Egocentrism. So, you know, up 5, 6, 7, they still have this egocentrism, meaning that everything is self-centered. It's so cute. They'll be talking to grandma on the phone, and they'll be like, look, grandma, look at the picture I made, right? They don't know that grandma can't see. They'll hold things to themselves. They think if I see it, everyone can see it. So everything is very egocentric, but you gotta give them a break. They're trying to understand their world. Let them understand their world first, and then they can understand that you have a different perspective of the world. Because that's a little bit more difficult for them to get, and that takes a little while. So egocentrism. Now, by the time they're 40, they shouldn't have that. I have met some that are very egocentric. If it doesn't happen to me, it doesn't exist. That's egocentrism. Here's an example of conservation. Right in front of them, 2 glasses, same amount. Is that the same amount? They'll say yes. You pour 1 into a taller glass and go, is it the same still? Oh no, this tall one has more. My best friend is short and little, and so my son always thought she was young, like a kid, because she's little. The bigger you are, the older you are. The littler you are, the younger you are. I don't understand that that doesn't necessarily work for adults. Concrete operational, again, they can manipulate objects in the mind just as in the physical world. So they start to be able to rearrange things. You know, what would the couch look like over here? And they can try to imagine that. Formal operational, again, they can think about abstract concepts. Now, criticisms of Piaget, because every theory has a criticism, right? Some infants have object permanence and other abilities. Conservation happens in stages. Sometimes it's numbers before liquids. It's more complicated. Some kids don't enter formal operational till later. Some kids enter all these stages earlier. But he did understand egocentrism and conservation, and he did set the stage for kids change their thinking as they age. And as their thinking changes, their dreams change, their perception of the world around them changes, lots of things change. So he was the first one to set this up, but you know, he still is the gold standard because there isn't really anything better than Piaget when it comes to understanding cognitive development. Information processing. As the brain develops, they can process more. But early on, they're limited with their brain processing, and so they can't understand certain concepts. Frontal cortex starts to develop. I mean, it's growing around 2, 3, 4, but it really grows again around puberty. All right, so the brain doesn't grow all at the same time. There's some areas that grow first and then other areas that start to grow later. Like I said, the frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex is the last part to grow. And that's not even done until you're, well, they're saying 28 now. It was 25. So their working memory is shorter, smaller. Their processing speed is super slow at 2 and much faster at 10, right? Littles have like slow processing. So cute though. And the way they process is totally different from us. What they process is totally different. Talk to littles as much as possible. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my gosh, you'll see the world in a totally different way. It is not an adult way. Because they don't have an adult brain. They don't have that experience to pull things off of. They don't have that ability to reason like we do. They don't reason the same way. They reason. So I had a dog named Shauna, and then my brother starts dating a girl named Shauna. And my friend's little, she's like 3. We were talking, and Shauna had Shauna dog is my dog, and Shauna, my brother's girlfriend. And so we were talking, she had just got a dog. So the little one goes, is her name Rebecca? Because if I have a dog named Shauna, she'd have her dog named Rebecca. Like totally, like no adult would think of this, but she did. And it was a really valid question. Do you have a story or a million of them?
Working in there for like a whole day and then going home to like talk to our parents is completely different because they're so used to talking to like little kids. So you think, oh, you need help opening this? I've done that like so many times with my mom. Oh, you need help opening this? Oh, you want me to read that for you?
Someday, yes. Yes, the answer will be yes to all that.
Yeah.
But not right yet. Yeah, it's funny. Yes, being around littles is a lot different. It's so much fun though, because the world, so if you have lost, as we age, we lose that magic in the world isn't magical anymore, but you hang around littles and the world is super magical, like everything's amazing. And so it kind of reminds you how amazing everything is before you realize it's not. So it is really fun to see the world through their eyes. Yeah, it's fun. So yeah, as they grow, myelinization increases speed, so processing speed. So the more myelinization, the faster they process. Now, Vygotsky emphasized social interactions. Vygotsky was Russian. He died at 33, 34, I think, and his stuff wasn't interpreted into German and understood until years after his death. But he was the first one to say, hey, kids learn from all of the teachers around them, and the teachers are their brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles and neighbors and their teachers at school. But their primary teachers are the ones at home. And so rules and customs of culture, we teach kids, we don't say that to people. You don't act this way in a restaurant, you act this way when we're at the store. All of these social rules that we are constantly teaching children, okay? Adults help instruct them about language. I go, oh, you mean you went? Okay, so we teach them new words. We help them understand the world around them through words. We teach them cultural traditions. Santa Claus is not a very fond cultural tradition to a 2-year-old. Most littles do not like Santa, by the way, yeah.
I definitely think this is true because I was raised super Christian, and growing up, like my friends around me who weren't Christian would be like, why do you do that? Like say like pray before a meal or something. Like no, and I like could not understand like what they meant. Like what do you mean? Like, that's what you do,
And that's a perfect example of culture. You don't know culture until you leave it. So like if you ever travel to another country and you immediately understand the Western culture and the US culture as soon as you go to another country, because things are different. And yeah, how many of you remember spending the night first time at someone else's house and you're like, do you people live like this? Like, right? Wasn't it weird? It's just like, you do what? Like my friend, like, you eat in front of the TV? Are you freaking kidding me? Like, that was never allowed. We couldn't even have water on the couch. Like, there's just certain things that never happened. And her mom cooked bacon, and then, which we didn't have. And if we did, it was cooked in the oven, and it was like squeezed of every fat out, like everything. And her mom cooked bacon in a cast iron pan, which I had never seen before, and then cooked eggs in it. And I was like, whoa, you eat that? Like, I don't know if I could eat that. So that's culture. So yeah, being in a very, very religious household, or very, like any household.
That's still happening, honestly. Like, last night I was making brownies with my friend, and she put like, or I put the powder in first, and she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "You mix the liquids first." And I was like, "What?" And like we were both like, "What?"
Right, you're like arguing. Who puts milk or cereal first, right? That's a thing. We can get in an argument over that, unless everyone agrees that cereal goes first and then milk goes in.
Unless it's the second.
True, but if there is some milk left, you have to add it, because you can't waste the milk, you just have to add a little bit more cereal, right? See, there's rules, these are culture rules. When I went to go make, I lived with my best friend, and we decided to host Thanksgiving for 18 people, right? So I was like, okay, we'll do a deep fried turkey, a baked ham, and then we did a barbecue turkey. So we had all this food. And so I got this big ham, and my best friend's like, you have to cut the end off of it. And I was like, why? She's like, because that's what my mom always did, you cut the end off of it. I was like, okay, why? I don't know. So we asked Mom. She's like, well, that's what Grandma always did. Like, all right. Well, okay, Grandma's coming, so we'll ask Grandma. So Grandma gets there, and we're like, okay, why do you cut the ends off the ham? What's the reason behind, like some, magical reason? She's like, well, because it wouldn't fit in the oven otherwise. Because back in the day, the ovens were tiny. And so here we have a tradition, this custom, family custom, that has nothing to do with anything anymore, but we're still doing it. So that's culture. I grew up on the West Coast. We have a different culture. I didn't know the California Howdy had a name, that, the head thing. I didn't know that other people named that, because I grew up in Southern California where that was always common, and that's just how you said hi to people. You just went, you just did the head nod. Then I moved to Nevada, and they're like, oh, that's the California Howdy. I was like, what? You named it? Because in California, we don't name for that. Because that's just our culture. That's like how people act. So I was talking to someone the other day. I was always barefoot in a bathing suit, and you can walk into the store with no shirt, if you're a guy, of course. Guys can walk into the store, no shirt, bathing suit, no shoes. Like, no big deal. Very common. And then other places, I drove barefoot all the time. Like, we didn't wear shoes. And no, not here. Like, what do you mean? It's so weird. So culture is specific to the area. And then language used while thinking influences behavior. Any of you here have negative language? You're killing me. Or, any of those? You probably want to replace those with something a little bit more positive. They do affect you. Negative language while you're thinking is not helpful. The sooner you stop it, the better. Attachment. We talked about attachment, right? Yeah, we talked about it again real quick. I need to post a video of Harlow. It's very sad. But important. So yeah, Harlow did a study with monkeys. I can talk about that in here.
Yeah, the
Kind of. Yeah, the wire one with food, and the wire one with cloth for comfort. And baby monkeys would prefer the cloth mother over the wire mother with food, which is the first time that researchers realized that babies would rather have comfort than food. It was always the other way around before. Bowlby developed emotional stages and came up with the separation anxiety. So fear of being away from the primary caregiver. And separation anxiety happens when kids can start moving around. And as they move around, if you think about evolutionarily, if you can move around and you're afraid of being away from your mom, you're more likely to stick near mom and will survive versus wandering around and wandering off. So again, secure attachment. Most babies and adults are securely attached. Avoidant attachment is about 15 to 20. Baby doesn't care if mom's there or not. They can be comforted by a stranger. And I bet you've seen some of this, haven't you?
Yeah, just yesterday actually.
Oh, yesterday in class?
Yeah.
I mean, in the classroom. So what, did the kid not care when mom showed up?
The whole time he was like getting back to me because all of her mom and everything was really wrong. And then once she sees her mom, she was really happy. And then once she gets to her, like, we have like a door to like see out.
Uh-huh.
And once she like goes out to her, she like nothing happens. She walks away from her and I'm like, you just cried for her for an hour.
Interesting.
So this is really
I'm crying for you, then you're here, now I don't care.
yeah.
So it's like disorganized. You're like, whoa, that shouldn't happen that way. Yeah. So obviously there's an issue with attachment.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it can be addressed. But we just had Dr. Dre Dorn, who used to be the director over there. She came to my child's psych Zoom class and did a whole lecture on attachment theory and in depth. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting and really unfortunate to watch. It's heartbreaking. Resistant, they don't use mom as base. So mom's usually safe base, right? You come, you got mom, you're comforted, and then you go back out to play. And these babies don't. Disorganized babies don't. Some cling and never leave mom. Some, I mean, it's just they're all over the place. Or they cry when mom's not there, and then mom gets there and they act like they don't care. Wow. Fortunately, that can all be adjusted if
Yeah. We're
trying
yeah, we're
with
trying.
mom.
Yeah. We let
Because
mom
it has
know.
to start with mom.
Yeah.
Now, self-concepts. This is how we define ourselves. Asking littles about their self-concept. I'm tall, I'm pretty, I've got blue eyes. They're really concrete, specific items until they get a little bit older. And then it's, I like cars. So then they start talking about things that they like. By 3, 4, and gender roles. Again, we talked about Freud in here, and gender roles pop up around 3 and 4. When they start identifying, I'm a girl, you're a girl, and so I'm gonna start acting like you until I don't want to anymore. And then I'm gonna find what fits for me. So really, gender development starts around 2 and 3, and then they keep going back and forth on what fits and what feels good. Because again, not everyone fits the typical gender roles for female or male. By 2, they know the difference. They know boys and girls. And my son was told by the girls at preschool that he can't play with pink things because those are for girls. He was upset. He came home and was like, I can't play with anything pink, it's for girls. I'm like, so I'm gonna have to undo that one. Transgender kids see themselves as members of the gender that they identify with. So even though they're in a boy body, if you've got a transgender female, she will identify with girls and want to do things based on that gender, not boy gender. I have a couple TED Talks. Now, moral development. In the beginning, kids don't understand blame for accidental or purposeful. Everything is the same. If you speed, even if it's 5 miles over the speed limit, you're breaking a rule, you go to jail. There's no in between. So they don't get early on, it's an accident, so I don't blame you for accidents. You know, you're not in trouble for an accident. And they don't necessarily understand intentional versus accidental. And they'll punish themselves for accidental stuff like they would if it was intentional. Older kids understand blame changes by junior high, high school. As soon as you hit puberty, these guys start mastering the questioning of authority. And Kohlberg came up with this moral dilemma, these moral theories. I don't know if I'm going to list of Kohlberg's moral. Oh yeah. So he has 3 levels, and there's 2 sub-levels in each one. This one's pretty basic, but pretty conventional. So, authority figures, level 1, authority figures make the rules. We follow the rules because those are the rules. Also, well, if I don't get caught, then I didn't break the rules, right? I didn't do anything wrong unless I get caught. That's level 1. Level 2, there's 6 levels actually. Conventional, focus on rules to maintain order. Follow the golden rule. Actually, there's 3 with 6. Yeah, never mind. So there's 3. So follow the rules because of the rules. You'll hear this when people say, well, this is the way it's always been. We've always done this way. We can't change this now. When marriage equality was challenged in 2012, well, we can't change the rules. There's going to be pandemonium in the streets. I don't know. I haven't seen pandemonium in the streets because gay people were allowed to marry. So I'm waiting on that. But that was what's said. Oh, it's always been this way. We can't change it. So whenever you hear it's always been this way, that is conventional level 2 of moral development. We follow the rules because of the rules, and we do that to maintain order. If we don't follow the rules, it's going to be chaos. Level 3, post-conventional. So this is principle. This is supposedly where we all want to get to, and in actuality, very few do. These are following principles to determine if the rules are to be followed. So, some people challenge, wait a minute, marriage equality between a man and a woman, why can't 2 consenting adults of the same sex get married? Like, why should they be denied marriage just because they are the same sex? Like, what's the grounds on that? If all men are created equal, and supposedly women, we should have equal principles. Principles should apply to everyone. And so then rules are challenged because not all rules are fair and not all rules apply to everyone. So principles. And this is the principal value over the rule. Because as a 13-year-old would ask, who made the rules? Oh, a person? Well then, what makes them so qualified to make a rule? And it's a valid question. Now, Kohlberg worked with boys and men, and Gillian, she focused on women. Some of her stuff, I'm not a huge fan of hers, but she did bring up that she brought up that women are different in their morals, where later studies said, well, not really. We use different moral reasoning in different situations, and moral reasoning and moral behavior are 2 totally different things. There was a study done, we talk about it in social psych, where back in it was during the time right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, where Asian Americans were not seen as very positive individuals. And this guy called all across this area, hotels, restaurants, would you serve Asian people? And like 80-something% of them said no. Then he traveled with these Asian couple, and only 12% denied them service. So what people say and what people do are different. So people say, oh yeah, no, I would never do that, and yet they do. Or they say, oh gosh, no, there's no way. I have morals, and then they go against their morals. So moral behavior, moral thought are different. However, moral thought is still really important. Moral reasoning is very important because it usually leads to moral behaviors, as long as it's encouraged and rewarded. Also, there is a, did I put the video in about being born good? I don't know if I did. I use it in my child psych a lot. Kids, early studies of 4 or 5 month olds demonstrate that children like the puppet that is helpful over the puppet that is mean. And they also like it when the puppet that's mean gets punished. We're talking 4 month olds, and they do this by eye gaze. So they will look at things that they like longer. And when they have to choose a puppet, they usually choose the puppet that either did the punishing of the bad puppet or was nice to other puppets. So we're kind of born with some basic moral standards. Well, 3/4. But then it begs the question, what's the other quarter? Are they bad? If they like the bad puppet, does that mean they're bad? Does that mean they're deviant? Does that mean these are antisocial kids? You can't assume that. So it's very controversial at that point. But interesting. Now, adolescence. Adolescence is in between. You're not a kid, but you're not an adult. And adolescents often will oscillate between being a kid and being an adult. So puberty starts adolescence. Puberty happens anywhere between 8 to 10 for girls, 12 to 13 for boys. This is like the pre-puberty, the early. Most girls go through puberty by 13, 16, girls earlier. 8 is early. Anything before 9 is called precocious puberty, and we have medications to stop that. And then we'll generally stop it until like 9 or 10. Because we don't need girls going into puberty at 8. Adolescence is this from puberty to end of high school, end of teen years, and then we have young adult. Puberty is happening earlier. So nutrition, stress. If dad is not in the home, girls start puberty earlier than if dad's in the home. So there's a lot of things going on. Chemical pollutants, additives in food, hormones, girls' weight. Also, if girls are born small and then grow rapidly in the first 2 years, they're more likely to have to go into puberty earlier than later. There's like lots of weird things around puberty. Generally, for girls, breast buds appear, pubic hair, breast enlargement, growth spurt, these are things you can see. And then menarche, so they get their period, underarm hair starts to grow, breasts fill out, and voice deepens a little. Boys, here, testes and scrotum grow, pubic hair grows, penis gets larger, first ejaculation occurs here, underarm hair, upper lip hair, another growth spurt, and then 16, 18, hair grows on cheeks and chin, and then changes in voice, generally, how this goes. Adolescence and puberty marks another huge shift to brain development. So like first 2 years, there was a lot of pruning and neural growth and myelinization. And now at puberty, there's a huge pruning and brain growth and myelinization. So they can lose up to 20, 30% of the neurons that they have and growing new ones. So it's a big shift, but I akin it to, they're getting their keys to a brand new car, they don't know how to drive. You ever watch a little kid try to drive a car? Like a little go-kart? It's like all gas or all brake. They don't know how to do both. And early teens, they don't know how to do both. The limbic system is online, the frontal cortex is just coming online, and they don't talk to each other. So the limbic system is all this impulses, and they don't have the frontal cortex to control it. So they become very impulsive. They don't reason very well. That's frontal cortex. So as that starts to develop, they learn better reasoning abilities. And they're really impulsive and emotional. Boys and girls. So I swear, I was talking to a friend, I said, I think 13 to 16 is probably, 13, 15, maybe 12, 13, 15, 14, 15, that age is like the worst. So she was like, no, I'm 12 to 19. I was like, no, I think it's a little 13, 14, 15, right there. It is just, because you're having to drive a new body, you're growing, you don't even know where your body is anymore, and you're growing fast. I grew 4.5 inches one summer, and that was so painful. But it was like all of a sudden, I'm 4.5 inches taller within 3-4 months. It was weird. I watched my kiddo as he's growing, running into things, like not knowing where his body is. And then all the hormone changes, and the hormones come online, but they don't come online evenly. It's like the manufacturing. If you've ever worked in a manufacturing plant, in the beginning, you gotta work all the kinks out, and that's kind of how the body is. It's working all the kinks out. Hormones are up, hormones are down, everything's all over the place. And so they're having to balance all of this out at the same time. It is really this kind of interesting stage. They go through egocentrism again, but now it's, oh my God, everyone sees me, everyone's looking at me. So it's a spotlight effect, it's an imaginary audience and everyone's looking at them. But the funny thing is like all adolescents think that. So you've got a group of all these individuals thinking that everyone's looking at them. I remember our girls, when they were in high school. I can't go to school. Look at my hair. Your hair looks fine. No, it doesn't. And of course, what do I know? I went from being super smart to stupid overnight. That was fun. You know, as soon as they hit puberty, and then I didn't know anything anymore. I'm like, well, actually, kind of do, but all right. But yeah, I was like, okay, you know, we'll wear a hat. I can't wear a hat with this outfit. Okay, well then change your outfit. Oh, it's dirty. Oh my God, it was like this. You're going to school. I don't care what your hair looks like, you're going to school. So personal fable, this idea that they think that they're the star of their story and they're invulnerable, which leads to risk-taking behaviors. I don't think that TikTok, YouTube, Instagram helps this at all, because they do then become their own star and they have this audience, but not in a good way. And the negativity out there, yeah, it's not helpful. Now, emotional development. Okay, I want you to ignore the storm and stress. So this idea that adolescence is this time of storm and stress was often used. I teach adolescents, and we kind of spend the entire semester dispelling this. Adolescents do have conflicts, but it's over the little stuff. I want to put my clothes away. Can you put the dishes away? Right? You know, the whole like body thing. I see it all the time. The eye roll, like I'm asking him to like pull out his teeth just to put the dishes away. That's the kind of conflict that most adolescents go through. Now, some adolescents who go through or are living in very volatile environments, yeah, it's very, very difficult for them. Anyone here have a really tough adolescence? Anyone have a cool adolescent, like junior high, high school, you're cool, everything, yeah? Yeah, it's not that uncommon for kids to be like, well, yeah, you know, I've gone through with my parents, but it's not like life ending. It's not horrible. So this idea that it is a super stressful time is not true. Yes, there's extreme mood swings. You've got hormones going all over the place. And those hormones up and down can cause mood swings. taking risks. Adolescents do take risks because their frontal cortex isn't online enough to say, hey, that's a bad idea. Everything sounds like a good idea at the time for teens. And so they do a lot of things that as adults look back and go, wow, I should not have done that. Okay, so that isn't because it's a storm and stress, it's just because their brains are capable of far more than they've ever been, and they don't know how to handle that. And they have to learn how to drive it and learn how to handle that. And they question authority. They're constantly, which for parents drives parents nuts, but it's parents' job to help them question and give them answers because they're trying to figure out the world around them in a very complex way, in a very in-depth way. They start to understand things in a really meaningful way. They can understand God in a new way. Religion becomes more purposeful or meaningful for some of these kids that are raised in it because they've got this abstract thinking that they didn't have before. Now, most teens develop same gender friend networks. Teenagers start to branch out. Kids that have good, secure attachments with mom usually have good, securely attached friends. Gay adolescents have more opposite sex friends. So there's less emotionally attached to love interests. Here's the complicated part of that. There is this misunderstanding that gay people just want to have sex. And it's not true. They would love to meet people, date people, the way that every heterosexual individual can. If you're heterosexual, you don't think about, oh, if I go out with, Billy, what are my friends going to think? Am I going to get in trouble by my parents or my friends? Are people going to, if we go out in public holding hands, are we putting our lives at risk? Okay, and that is what same-sex couples go through. So they often have to hide their relationships. They can't court the same way. They don't get to go out to dinner and the movies and do the things that other couples do because they have to hide. And so culturally, their relationships look different. It is not because they are different, it's because culturally we don't let them be the same. In areas like San Francisco, where you can be openly gay, bisexual, whatever sexuality you have, you can go, you can express it, you can date people, you can be out in public without being attacked. I mean, look at the news. How many gay couples get attacked because they're walking down the street holding hands? That is it. So yeah, if that was facing you and the person that you're interested in, you're gonna hide it. So it's only because of the culture that they have to hide. And that's not fair at all. Teen pregnancy. We have the worst teen pregnancy rates of all industrialized nations. The worst. Finland has the best, the lowest rate of teen pregnancy. Sweden, actually, too. A lot of the countries, I think it was Sweden, Finland has the best school system. I think Sweden has the best sex ed education. It starts in elementary school. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I read an article about like the stigma around sex in different nations and how that's been proven to like, when they show like more of a like, I would rather you be safe than not do it, that kind of thing, there's less likely to be pregnant.
Yeah, well, and when you teach kids the biology of sex, okay, because it's something that we have to do as adults, otherwise the humans will die, right? So you teach the kids the biology of sex, and then you teach them the emotional aspect of sex, and then the intimacy as they get older, right? And they're more capable of understanding these pieces. You teach them the emotional aspect and the intimacy aspect. They have a much better respect for the whole sexual experience, and avoid teen pregnancy. Yeah, it is. In this country, we have abstinence. I remember when I was sex ed for me back in the 80s was here's a book full of pictures of sexual diseases and you don't want this, so don't have sex. That was like our extent. So we have a very backwards way of trying to get kids to not have sex. There's this idea that if we talk about it, they're gonna go do it. And that is the exact opposite. If you tell someone you can't have something, it makes them want to have it. So, children of teen moms are more likely to become teen mothers. Teen moms are more likely to live in poverty. Children born to teen moms are more likely to have health issues, be born prematurely or miscarry, intellectual disabilities. There's a long list. We would definitely benefit our children if we taught them. Oh, this is next week, isn't it?
The last one was.
Yep. Yeah, so, all right. I'm gonna stop here. We'll get out a little early. And yeah, next week we're gonna go over, I'll talk a little bit more about puberty and teen brains. I'll bring in some video, I'll post some videos and stuff I think next week. And yeah, and then we'll go over aging. The fun of aging. You guys aren't there yet, so.